Today's session, we are going to discuss about chapter on majorly on place of supply and time of supply, right? So the first question will keep the same format. I will go to the question, and while we discuss the question point by point, we are going to discuss the provision as well as the answer, right? Now, first, Dhruv and Company sends textile products for dyeing to Bhanu Shali manufacturers on job work basis on 16th of August. On 18th August, that is after 2 days, Dhruv and Company credited 100% of the job work charges to the bank account of Bhanuvshali manufacturers. So here what is happening is Dhruv and Company is sending textile products to Bhanushali manufacturers for doing job work. See, what is job work? Let's say example, I have a shirt which I give it for job work, where the person will put up the buttons and give me back. Or let's say I have a fabric and I ask someone to stitch and give me. So I have a product, I ask someone to do some work and give it back to me. So that is basically, in a logical sense, what is called as job work, right? So Dhruv and Company is sending textile products for dyeing, for coloring and all, for dyeing to a job worker whose name is Bhanushali Manufacturers, right? And Dhruv and Company gives the payment, right, in advance to Bhanushali Manufacturers on 18th August itself, right? And recorded in his books of accounts on the same date. Bhanushali Manufacturers issues the invoice for the same in first week of September. So they're saying the job worker who did the job work is raising the invoice on Dhruv and Company in the first week of September. Now, further, assuming that inputs are received back by Dhruv and Company after job work in the month of October, that is within the time limits of job work, determine the time of supplies for some job work done by Bhanushali manufacturers. So the question is revolving around the question of time of supply. Now, anyone wants to share your views? What should be the time of supply in this scenario?
Uh, uh, so I think it is 18th August.
Okay. Fantastic. Your answer is correct. Can you tell the reason as well?
So it was recorded in the books of accounts on 18th August. 16th August won't come because that was the day on which the servicing happened, and then the invoice was booked in our accounts on 18th August. And as per the sections, it's like on the date of the issue of the of invoice or the date of the receipt of the payment. So 8 minutes, 1 minute, sir.
So see, basically, time of first,
Hmm.
when you write, if you're writing answer in the exam, first you have to write the provision. So job work basically is goods or service. The activity of job work.
It's service, sir.
It's service, right? So first we have to quote Schedule 2. That as per Schedule 2, job work is a service transaction, right? So for service, you have to go to Section 13 for time of supply. For goods, it is 12. So when we go to Section 13 for time of supply, it says it is advance or date of invoice, right? If the invoice is raised within 30 days. So here, if you see, the invoice is issued in the month of September by the job worker Bhanushali, but he has received advance on 18th August itself. So if you see, date of invoice, if it is within 30 days, or payment which was earlier, right? So here it is date of payment which is advance on 18th August, and that is the reason 18th August will be the answer.
Yes, sir.
It's fairly very simple question. As per the Section 13, time of supply shall be, if the invoice is issued within 30 days, the date of issue of invoice or date of recording payment in the accounts of the supplier, or date of credit whichever is earlier, right? So as Sonia said, basically advance or invoice date whichever is earlier, and here advance is received on 18th August itself, whereas the invoice is issued next month in the month of September, right?
Yes, sir.
So the answer will be 18th August. Next question. So in next question, we have a lot of permutation combinations. So let's read carefully and we'll discuss point by point the answers, right?
Yes, sir.
Kaushal Manufacturers Limited, registered in Delhi, is a manufacturer and supplier of electronic home appliances. So he's based out of Delhi. It is paying tax under a regular scheme. So it's under normal scheme. No, that means not under composition scheme at all. It supplies the electronic home appliances in the domestic as well as overseas market, right? For supplies in other state of India, the company has appointed consignment agents in each state. So they are saying for no wide distribution across the country, he has appointed consignment agents in every state except certain states like Gurgaon, Haryana, and Noida, where UP, where the goods are supplied directly from its Delhi warehouse. So they are saying, except from few states like Gurgaon, Haryana, Noida, Uttar Pradesh, he's not having any agents, and he's supplying from his Delhi's godown. But other places he's appointed consignment agents who will help him out in distribution and selling. Now, in the month of January. So this whole question is we have to work out the liability for caution manufacturers in for the month of January, right? So we get into the data for January now. In the month of January, consignments of electric home appliances were sent to Cardinal Electricals Private Limited and Rochester Technos, agents of Kaushal Manufacturers Limited in Punjab and Madhya Pradesh, respectively. So they're saying he has two consignment agents, which the question is talking about. One is Cardinal Electricals and another is Rochester, right? And both are located in, one is Punjab, another in Madhya Pradesh, right? Out of them, one Cardinal Electricals and the other Rochester supplied these electrical home appliances for worth of rupees 40 lakhs and 70 lakhs respectively. Open market value is not available. So here, one question they've asked is, he has two agents, right? One in Punjab, another in Madhya Pradesh. So what value he has supplied to them is not given in the question. But at what value those agents have sold is given in the question, which is 40 lakhs and 70 lakhs. So please note, what value Kaushal has supplied to them is not known. Open market value is not known, but it is said that the value at which agents have sold from their locations is 40 lakhs and 70 lakhs respectively. Recollect rule 29. Hint. Okay, next. So that is one part of the question. We will discuss answer when we come to one by one. Or probably let's discuss now itself. Okay. So can anyone tell me what will be the provision for this?
So as
Yeah, Meera.
As per rule 29, the first one is open market value, which is not available. The second option that we have is the 90% of the price charged for the
Fantastic.
supply. So I think, sir, in this case, the 40% and 70%, we'll have to take the 90% of it as the value of the supply.
Fantastic, Meera. Thank you. So basically, Rule 29 says open market value or at the which of the supplier, he can take 90% of the value for which is sold by the agent to the ultimate customer, right? So, right, Meera rightly pointed out, open market value is not available. So 70 lakhs plus 40 lakhs, 1 crore 10 lakhs on that 90% will be basically the value on that GST will be applicable. Fantastic, Meera. Thank you. So Rule 29 is applicable because Rule 29 says when you are selling to an agent, you take open market value or at the option of the supplier, 90% of the value which is sold by the agent. So anyways, we'll go to the answer. We'll see the provision again once. Next. So in the second question, the next point, further, electronic home appliances have been supplied to Ron Technomart, a wholesale dealer of electronic home appliances in Noida. That means the place where they don't have a consignment agent, for a consideration of 23 lakh rupees from its Delhi warehouse, right? So from Delhi warehouse, they're sending goods to Ron Technomart, basically a dealer in Noida. They say Kaushal Manufacturers owns 75% of shares of Ron Technomart. Open market value of these electronic home appliances supplied to Ron Technomart is 30 lakh rupees. Further, Ron Technomart is not eligible for input tax credit, full input tax credit, right? So interesting question. There are 2-3 tricks here. Anyways, let's see. Anyone to answer?
I believe rule 28 will be applicable here because it is a related party because of that 75% of owning. And so since in that, I think the open market is given in this. So I think 30 lakhs will be the value of it.
Fantastic, Meera. All the points are correct. Only one point you have missed out. Otherwise, all the points are rightly said. One point alone you missed out. That also I will highlight. So first, what Meera said was it's a related party transaction. First important point, because it's holding 75% stake, right? So related party, as per valuation, section 15 explanation, it becomes a related party transaction because it is holding 75%, right? So I'm controlling, right? I'm exercising control. So it's a related party transaction. Once it's a related party transaction, rightly said by her, rule 28 will be applicable. See, because I will give an example, a logical example. See, let's say example, I am there and my wife is having a company. So if I'm supplying goods to my wife, who is having another proprietorship concern, so don't you think that the price can be influenced by us? Very logical, right? Because I might sell at a very lower price to my wife's company. Possible, right? So these are generally related party where the government wants to invoke, CBSE wants to invoke open market value, because so that what is open market value? What value I'm selling to others? Unrelated parties, that value only I should apply. So rightly said by her, 30 lakhs will be applicable because that is the open market value. Since I'm controlling the price influence and we have undervalued at 23 lakh rupees. Now, one more point which I said Meera could have added is the last line says, further Rohn Technomart is not eligible for full input tax credit. See, rule 29, if you see that it's the point says, if the recipient is eligible to claim full input tax credit, then whatever value is levied in the invoice will be deemed to be the open market value. So if my recipient, that is Rohn Technomart, although it's a related party, if he is eligible to claim full input tax credit, then whatever value I charge in the invoice, that is 23 lakhs, will be deemed to be open market value. I will explain you the logic first. Anyways, if you have seen those videos, you will know it. But anyways, I will highlight that once again. See why the lawmakers have put this provision. Example, I'm in Chennai. Let's say my related party is also in Chennai. My wife's proprietorship concern, right? So let's say 30 lakhs worth of goods I've supplied her for 23 lakhs. If she's eligible to claim full input tax credit, I will charge tax on 23 lakhs. She will take input on 23 lakhs. So there is no loss, no profit to the government as such. From GST perspective, government is not losing revenue as such, because I will charge on 23 or 30, but either case, she will be able to take credit either it's 23 or 30 lakhs. See the logic. But if the other party is unable to claim full input tax credit, then if I undervalue, then it's a loss to the government. Why? Because if I undervalue and charge less GST, my recipient will not be able to claim full input tax credit. So government is losing the revenue because I'm charging less GST. Correct? So that is the reason the law says, Rule 28 says, if the recipient is unable to claim is eligible to claim full input tax rate, no problem. You charge less also, no problem. You have no problem. Whatever value is charged in the invoice, it's a deeming fiction, will be deemed to be open market value. But in the question, they give an important point that Rohn Technomart is not eligible for full input tax rate. And hence, we cannot go as per deeming fiction of 23 lakhs. So we'll have to go as per open market value. Now, let me explain one more point, that why someone might not be eligible for full input tax credit. Can anyone say me why? Why a recipient might not be eligible to claim full input tax credit? What could be the reason? Okay. See, the recipient might have certain exempt supplies. The recipient might be into certain exempt supplies because of which he is unable to claim full input tax credit. Right? So that is the reason. If the recipient is unable to claim full input tax credit, then we have to take only open market value. So this was the second point of this question. Next point. Kaushal Manufacturers Limited also provides repair and maintenance services to electronic appliances manufacturers located in India. Further information is provided for the month of January. So we have seen 2 points. Now we'll see further points in the question. Supply of electronic home appliances to wholesale dealers of such appliances in Delhi, 84 lakh rupees. Answer? Anyone with the answer with simple question? So I'm in Delhi. Wholesale dealers are in Delhi. I will charge CGST, SGST on 84 lakhs. Simple. Nothing is there. Sometimes an easy question can confuse us that what the examiner is wanting to ask us. It's a very simple thing. 84 lakhs, CGST, SGST. Next. Electronic home appliances supplied to Anchor Electricals Inc. Inc. USA under LUT. Consideration received in convertible foreign exchange. Right. Okay. So supplies done to Anchor Electricals USA under LUT 1 crore 26 lakhs. So what is the treatment? How much GST payable?
Nil.
Sorry?
Nil.
Nil. Fantastic. Thanks, Ajit. So here nil GST is to be paid. Why? Because it's a
LUT
zero rated
for-
supply. I'm exporting goods under LUT and hence I am not liable to pay GST. Now, let me twist this question. Let's say this bracket words are not there. The words in the brackets are not there. Let's say consideration received in, let's say, Indian currency. Still, would it qualify as export or not? Whether the answer remains the same, that there is no GST, or I will have to pay GST if the consideration is received in Indian currency. I'm just twisting the question.
I think so. It will remain the same.
Fantastic, Mira. So if I'm an examiner, I will definitely twist the question stating Indian currency. So answer will remain the same. It will be still an export. Why? Because in case of goods, when I'm exporting goods, it is zero rated. Whether the consideration is coming in foreign exchange or not, it will still be a zero rated transaction. Only in case of export of service, consideration should come in convertible foreign exchange, except where permitted by RBI. Right? Next. Repair and maintenance services provided to Unitech Limited, an electronic appliance manufacturer located in Delhi for 8,40,000 rupees. Nothing, very simple thing. Repair maintenance services. So what is the rate of GST? I will apply as CGST and SGST on 8,40,000. Simple. Next. Advance received towards repair and maintenance services to be provided to Aurillac Limited, an electronic appliance manufacturer located in Delhi. So they're saying advance is received in the month, because these are informations for the month of January. So saying advance is received in January towards repair maintenance services. Bracket. Repair and maintenance services have been provided in January and the invoice is issued on 28th February. So answer this question. Whether GST is payable in the month of January or February, because we are working out only for the month of January liability.
So in the month of January, because advances in terms of services will be taxed.
Fantastic, Mira. Thank you. So rightly said by Mira again that yes, it's on advance received. So advance is received in January, bill is raised in February, so which is earlier. So advance, we have to go as per advance, and liability will arise for the month of January, right? Next, advance received for electronic home appliances to be supplied to Novik Electricals, a wholesale dealer of such appliances in Gurgaon. So advance received for supply of goods. Invoice, open bracket, invoice for the goods is issued at the time of delivery of the electronic appliances in the month of March, close bracket, 8,40,000 rupees. Yes. So in the month of January, you have received advance, and they're saying invoice and delivery has happened in the month of March. So in January, any liability to be paid or not to be paid?
Because it is advance for goods, it won't. It will be in the month of March and not January.
Fantastic, Mira. Thank you. So rightly said by Mira, only in section 13, which is for services, it's advance or invoice, which is earlier. But in case of section 12, which is for goods, GST is not payable on advance received. Please note, in case of goods, GST is not payable on advance received. Let me give a logical example. Let's say example, I'm in the supply of laptops. So your company buys laptops for me. I'm going to supply laptops to you in the month of March, but you pay me advance in the month of January itself. I will not pay GST in the month of, for the month of January. I will be paying for the month of March. Why? Because on advance received, no GST is payable. But in case of service provider, so if I'm going to provide a consultancy service in the month of March and you give me advance in the month of January, then yes, GST is payable on advance received in the month of January. It's required to work out GST. The rates of GST are given, but anyways, all the applicability of GST we have discussed. These are just the rate of GST we have to work out. So first we discuss about supply of electronic home appliances to consignment agents. We said it is 40 lakhs, 70 lakhs, 1 crore 10 lakhs on that, basically 90%. So it's 99 lakhs on that, we have to work out 5%. Next, we discuss the supply of electronic home appliances to a related party, which was Ron Technomart. So we discuss the related party, but since the recipient cannot take input tax rate fully, so open market value we have to take, it was 30 lakh rupees. On that we have charged 5% GST to pay. Next was simple question, electrical appliances supplied to dealers in Delhi itself. So CGST, SGST on 84 lakhs I will have to calculate 2.5. Then for export transaction, we discussed there's no GST, even if the consideration is in foreign exchange or in Indian currency. Then we discussed about supply of repair and maintenance services. We discussed that it's repair and maintenance services, simple 18% CGST plus SGST. Next, we discuss about advance. So we discussed that is service received. For service, we have received advance in January, but service provided on bill is raised on 20th February, but still it is advance received. So for the month of January, we have to pay 9% CGST, 9% SGST. And then advance is for goods. We discussed for goods on advance, there is no GST payable because this liability we're working out for the month of January as such. Next. These are the reasoning for the question, which we've already discussed point by point, clause by clause we have discussed. So all the reasoning are mentioned here, which we've already discussed. Right. So now we come to the last question for the day. Question number 3 on place of supply. Dobril Technocrats Limited, registered in Gurgaon, Haryana, is engaged in manufacturing heavy steel machinery. So it's a manufacturer. It enters into an agreement with Mindsharp Associates, registered in Delhi. So for imparting motivational training to the top management of Dobril Technocrats Limited in a 5-day residential motivational training program at an agreed consideration of 20 lakh rupees. So let's understand the question. So Mindsharp Associates is a training company, right? Mindsharp Associates is a training company. They are going to impart training to the top management of Dobril Technocrats for a 5 days motivational training program worth rupees 20 lakh. So Mindsharp Associates is a service provider. Dobril is a recipient. Mindsharp will raise an invoice to Dobril. Next part of the question. In turn, Mindsharp Associates, who is going to conduct a training, is going to book the conference hall along with the rooms of Hotel Chum Chum, Nimrana, registered in Rajasthan for the training program for a lump sum consideration of 12 lakhs. So basically, Dobril has engaged Mindsharp for training. So Mindsharp is going to conduct the training at a hotel Chum Chum in Rajasthan. And Mindsharp Associates is going to hire that hotel and going to pay 12 lakh rupees. So there are two parts of the transaction, right? One transaction is Mindsharp Associates going to take a training for Dobril and raise an invoice to what will be the place of supply. Next part of the question is Mindsharp is going to book the hotel. The hotel will charge GST to Mindsharp. What will be the place of supply to determine whether it's intra or interstate? So see the question last line. You're required to determine the place of supply in respect of the supplies involved in the given scenario, right? So now, two part of the question. Let's go one by one. So the first question, Mindsharp Associates, when they raise an invoice to WL, will it be an intra or interstate supply? Because the trick here is, the recipient is from Gurgaon, but the training will happen in Rajasthan. What will I charge him? And what will be the place of supply? So the main question is not what I will charge him. What is the place of supply? So please answer what is the place of supply in the first part of the question. Place of supply. Will it be Delhi? Will it be Gurgaon? Or will it be Rajasthan?
It will be Gurgaon, sir. Gurgaon,
Sorry?
Haryana. Gurgaon, Haryana, sir.
Okay, Ajis. Can you tell the reasoning why you feel it should be Gurgaon, Haryana?
Sir, the recipient is registered. So if it is registered,
Fantastic,
means location
fantastic,
of recipient
Ajis.
will.
Right. Fantastic, Ajis. Thank you so much. So Ajis rightly answered. He said, since the registered recipient is from Gurgaon, the place of supply will be Haryana. See, when the recipient is registered, I'm giving him a training, right? So the place of supply provision says if I'm giving him a training and if he's registered, then the location of the recipient is the place of supply. Pure logic. Only if I charge him the place of supply basis Haryana, he can take input tax credit. So irrespective of where the training is happening, if the recipient is registered, that will be the place of supply. So the place of supply is Haryana, rightly said by Ajis. Next part of the question. Now, Hotel Chum Chum will be raising an invoice to Mindshop Associates for the conference hall with rooms. What will be the place of supply in this scenario? It will be Rajasthan or will it be Delhi? Yes.
It would be Rajasthan, sir.
Okay. Any other views? Ajis has said it should be Rajasthan. Any other views? Anyone having any contra views? Okay. Fantastic. So Ajis, rightly said by you. Because can anyone tell me the reasoning why Ajis answer is right?
Here we have to consider where the training has taken place.
Okay. No, Mira, that there's some other reason. It's not about training here. What services is provided by Hotel Chum Chum to Mindshop Associates? So it is, yeah, Smruti.
The supply in a sense the location of where the training is going to happen. That is in Rajasthan. That's why that means.
Okay.
I mean the training is being conducted over there. Hall is in Rajasthan.
Fantastic. So now you're coming to the point. So first you were saying where the training is conducted. That is not important. Where the hall is located, right? Thank you. So last part you came to the right point, that where the hall is located. So you had the answer in mind, but yes, you were unable to put in words initially, but rightly said by you at the end, where the hall is located. So immovable property service. See, this is a service related to immovable property. So any hotel, if I'm charging for the room rent or for the hall rent, it's a immovable property service where they say the place of supply will be the location of the immovable property. So I'll give an example. So let's say example, Ashok Leland is in Chennai. So the marketing person of Ashok Leland goes and stays in a hotel in Mumbai, right? So what the Mumbai person will charge me? Although I'm registered in Chennai, when I go and stay in Mumbai, the hotel will charge me CGST, SGST because the place of supply will be Mumbai itself, Maharashtra. Why? Because location of supply, the hotel is in Maharashtra. Place of supply is the location of the property, that is also in Maharashtra. So it is an intrastate supply and the place of supply will be Maharashtra. So similarly here, since the property is located, the immovable property, the hotel is located in Rajasthan, the place of supply will also be in Rajasthan. Right? So in case of immovable property, the location of the property will be the place of supply. See, place of supply, the residual clause says location of the recipient will be the place of supply. But when you talk about event, when you talk about immovable property, you talk about various services. For certain transactions, they've given a specified rule as to this will be the place of supply. This will be the place of supply. Where the moment terminates will be the place of supply. So we have to be a little careful in remembering those rules for place of supply. Right? So the answer is rightly we discussed. So the first part is services provided by Mindshop to Dobril for training. And second part is hotel to Mindshop. So there are two services here. So they are saying first one, as per section 12.5a, the place of supply for training will be registered person will be the location of such person. So which was location of Haryana of the recipient, which is Dobril, right? And the next part of the question is place of supply, section 12.3c. Clause C says in case of accommodation by any movable property will be the place where such property is located, which was in our question, Rajasthan. Right?